What is up, wrestling card fans, trading card enthusiasts, and sports card fanatics? It's Tom here from CollectAWrestlePalooza. If you watch my channel, you know I have eclectic tastes. I go after whatever my heart desires, and I don't stop at just sports cards or just wrestling cards. I collect it all. So with that in mind, I have another stack of cards from the archive. I just grabbed a handful of card savers. We're going to go through them one by one, reminisce, tell stories, and have some fun.
CollectAWrestlePalooza. CollectAWrestlePalooza.
When I was in grade school, Garbage Pail Kids were the jam. We would go in the corner of the playground, we'd go to our friend's house, we'd have our stacks of cards and rubber bands, and we would trade them. So as an adult, I've gone back and bought some wax packs, which I have opened on this channel, and I always put all my cards directly into top holders, card savers, team bags. I like to keep them nice. There's nothing better to me than looking at a pack fresh card in plastic. It just makes me excited. So with that in mind, I do have a bunch of Garbage Pail Kids that I do have in the archive. This one is Will Explode. I'm sure it's not from series 1 or 2. It's from one of the later series, but you can see he's pumping himself up just like the character from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, right? It's going to explode there in a minute. This is an interesting card. This is a Hulk Hogan from the Rockin' Wrestling sticker series. This was a card I had as a child. You can see Hulk Hogan's got his championship belt and he's holding a barbell with one hand. I guess that's the way that he would just romp around town, right? But you know, these cards are pretty cool. They're cartoon figures. It was from a time that WWF was really trying to market itself to children and make Hulk Hogan larger than life. And of course, it's in pristine condition. I never stuck it to anything as a child and kept it really nice. But when I've gone back and looked at the values of these stickers, they're still not very expensive. And I wonder why. I wonder why they haven't taken off, just because they are pretty cool. We've got a Wade Boggs. He'd always average over 300, and he always had superstitions. He would eat fried chicken before all of his games. He'd jump over the foul line, but he would always produce. So people that know Wade Boggs love him. He did get traded to the Yanks at one point, which tarnished his legacy with the Red Sox, but he will always be a great hitter from the 1980s. These are all childhood cards here. Cal Ripken, Junk Wax Cal Ripken, Donruss, not in great shape, but Cal Ripken Jr., his name has lived on. Through the steroid era, people still love Cal. Tony Gwynn, another great hitter and outfielder from the Padres. This is again from my childhood collection. Threw it into a card saver. Now this is an interesting card. This is just an FMW basic logo card, right? There's nothing really to it. It does have a nice back that has some color, but the seller included this as a freebie, so I threw it into a card saver. I don't know much about it outside of that. Baseball Magazine, those are the Japanese cards that are great to collect. Simpsons. One thing that really surprised me looking at these Simpsons cards is all of the characters, this is the way they looked on either the Tracy Ullman special or in season 1 of The Simpsons. So I do think those Simpsons cards you can buy on eBay are probably good long-term holds because they're early on in The Simpsons legacy, and that is probably the greatest television show in the history of TV. So what is she saying? Apple polisher? Thank you very much. I take that as a compliment. Oh, it must be because she's getting it ready for the teacher on the desk, the Apple. Do have a bunch of 1990 classic WWF cards just because I had stacks of them as a kid. I've saved them really nice. There's Bobby Heenan, the greatest manager of all time. Jesse the Body Ventura, crossover star. He's in politics, on movies. He's in Predator. Early AEW cards, I did pick up some of the first release, and I know they had some parallels and canvas cards and main features and stuff like that, so I've thrown some of those into card savers. That's Jack Hager. This is Lance Archer, I believe. Yeah, Lance Archer wins the Casino Battle Royale at All Out. I think All Out was their second event after All In. Got another Lance Archer card there. This was an interesting parallel. Let me go back to this for a second. It was the All Elite Wrestling Magazine parallel. So the front was a little more special. It had some texture, or at least some neat colors, and they called it a magazine card. Hillbilly Jim, underrated, big man. He was a behemoth. He had that big gold horseshoe, was Hulk Hogan's friend. but never really won any titles. Dino Bravo, Canadian strongman. I think there is a dark side of the ring about Dino Bravo. I think he was wrapped up in some nefarious stuff outside of the ring, but just loved his physique, just a really big Vince McMahon, macho man, just really fit into that template from the time of larger-than-life bodybuilder type wrestlers. Can't go wrong with Mr. Perfect, right? Curt Hennig, one of the greatest careers in wrestling history, illustrious in the AWA and the WWF, greatest promos ever in the WWF. Danny Davis. I feel like this is an interesting card too. And in the 1990 Classic, some of the cool cards in that series are the underrated, overlooked superstars from the Federation. You've got Danny Davis. You've got a Brooklyn Brawler card, I think. A number of the stars that, would not show up on cardboard nowadays. So I just thought it was pretty cool to have a nice pack fresh Danny Davis there. Greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, Honky Tonk Man. I always loved this jumpsuit because it almost looks like a mini Elvis, and that he's ahead there, that if there was a blue screen behind him, it would look like a tiny Honky Tonk Man dancing around. Terry Taylor, Red Rooster. Poor Terry Taylor, Red Rooster. That's all I'm going to say about that. Got another cool Garbage Pail Kids card here. Oh, that's a cool one. Slime Simon. I like it. It almost looks like an Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom slime trap or something like that. The artwork on the Garbage Pail Kids is amazing. Another interesting fact about the Garbage Pail Kids, one way you can tell the earlier series from the later series ones, the text on the top is going to be curved in almost a semicircle. Later ones, it's straight across. And the reason for that was a trademark infringement or copyright infringement lawsuit, because Cabbage Patch Kids used to have their logo in that semicircle. So they didn't like it. They sued them, and then they made them do it straight across. I guess that solved the problem, right? Another Garbage Pail Kids here, Lee Tree. Almost looks like American Gothic painting, something like that. Just this artwork is just so cool. I mean, if you look at this card aesthetically, the colors, the way the green and the blue and the yellow and the pink and the red all complement each other. It's a great palette. This would be a great pop painting. So, as an artist and as someone that liked to look at art, there are really pieces of artwork. You can see here, straight across, right? That is Raked Jake, kind of gruesome. Also, after the lawsuit, the faces did not look as much like Cabbage Patch Kids. They were a little bit more like baby doll heads instead of Cabbage Patch Kids. You can see that here too. The face isn't quite as wide and semicircular. This is a direct American Gothic reference here. That's interesting that I brought up American Gothic a couple cards before, and now we're looking at a real American Gothic painting. Dick Hick. Another Garbage Pail Kids. This is an earlier one because the text is like this. Busted Armand. I like the simple ones. I like the ones that use empty space in really interesting ways. I like that the rings are in front of the text. They would always do cool artistic touches like that. The green background kind of fading into a dark green, almost black, to give it some space and some depth. Just really, really great cards. Makes me want to go and buy some more Garbage Pail Kids as I'm talking here. Who do we got here? Jerry White, Expos. I think I saved this one. It's not actually signed. That's on the card. Just because it's an earlier Topps. It looks like an 82 or 83. That was before I started collecting cards, but I do have some of the older ones in my set from my childhood. 1-2-3 Kid. This is probably a Merlin card somewhere in there. I do collect 1-2-3 Kid because I just like, what 1-2-3 Kid stands for in terms of his career. That was his entry point into the WWF, the famous match with Razor Ramon. He didn't stay as the 1-2-3 Kid very long. So I feel like as a period piece, having cardboard of Shawn as the 1-2-3 Kid is where to collect. This is arguably a Triple H rookie. Again, I don't think this is a terrifically expensive card. It's actually a sticker, but it came out very early on. I don't know what year, but of course this is him as Hunter Hearst Helmsley, so that's a long-term hold for me. Here's Diesel, another sticker. I think it's another Merlin sticker. We've got Razor Ramon, the bad guy. How cool is that sticker right there? Look at Scott Hall just sizing up his opponent. He always had this look on his face. He looked, almost cross-eyed, but in a really cool way. I can't really explain it, but He definitely has that look on this sticker here. Shawn Michaels rookie. All the 1990 classics are Shawn Michaels rookies. One of the most overlooked cards in wrestling are the 1990 classic Shawn Michaels. You can buy them for, usually under $5 in mint condition. We've got a Tom Seaver here, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, Hall of Famer from the Junk Wax era. But a Red Sox, I used to collect Red Sox. Smash from Demolition. 1990 Classics, my favorite cards in that series are the Demolition cards. I just feel like they're very colorful cards. They're really nice printing, and just the black and the red on the face of Demolition just looks really good on that cardboard. And also a lot of the 1990 Classics have that dark ring aesthetic in the background. The arenas were always dark back in the 80s and 90s, and Demolition just looks cool in the spotlight on the ring. Got some signatures here. I was buying just at face value, meaning I didn't have any way to authenticate them outside of just trusting the seller. They said they got all these signatures at fan events. I think this one is signed by Nate Marquardt, one of the early UFC stars. This one, I really like the signature. The Dean of Mean, Keith Jardine. Really interesting fighter and an even cooler signature. Look at that. Just love that card. I've got one signed by, who's this? Marvin Eastman, the Beastman. You can see it says Beastman Eastman there, I believe. And finally, we've got a card signed by... that's Jake O'Brien. Unfortunately, it's not signed by Heath Herring. It is signed by Jake O'Brien. Heath Herring's signature would be a little more sought after. So that does it. Those are my cards for today. More than anything, I just want to encourage my viewers to go back and look through their old cards. It's so much fun. It brings up memories of cards you had from your childhood or ones you bought a few years ago and forgot about. It's why we stay in the hobby. It's why we do what we do. Keep the hobby going. Have a great week. Stay good. Stay true. Peace.